Smith getting all from West Coast as he clings to the lead from Gunnamera. IREP is third at the inside. Cameron is fourth. It is West Coast, and he keeps on rolling. And West Coast goes wire to wire. It's the Travers.
Live from the backstretch at historic Saratoga Racecourse, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow. Racing Across America is brought to you by Pinnell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga, just minutes from the track. Thoroughfan, giving the fan a voice. Find them at thoroughfan.com. And Woodbine Racetrack. Pick, bet, and cheer on world-class horse racing north of the border.
Welcome to Racing Across America on this Friday morning. I'm Seth Merrill, live from the Saratoga backstretch. Thanks for joining us. I want to take a moment to thank the folks at Captain Community Human Services for hosting the event last night at the Holiday Inn, the Unbridled Affair. Our friend Steve Bick and his wife Tina invited me to sit at their table. I was there with Gary Contessa and his wife, and Skip Dickstein and his wife, and also in the house, Steve Haskin, the folks from West Point. They were, I don't know if the right word is honored, but the part of the ceremony or part of the proceedings, the folks at West Point got to go up and, again, be honored. The folks associated with Mind Your Biscuits, and then Bill and Ann Long, who are a couple who have been supportive of the Captain organization, which is a kind of an organization locally that helps youth at risk and family services and whatnot. The beginning of the event last night, a woman got up who, as a teenager, had to use the services, had problems at home, and was in a bad way, and the whole place got silent as she told her story. And now 15 years later, the human resources manager at the Boys and Girls Club, and has her own child, and is married and has a great life now. So it was nice to hear the firsthand profile coming out of the services provided by Captain. I think it was a successful event last night, a lot of fun. So I just wanted to thank the folks there for putting on the affair, and again, alert you to a nice organization in the area. Steve Bick did a nice job too. He was emceeing last night, so congratulations to him for putting on a good show. All right, on this morning's edition of Racing Across America, Tom Bellhouse from West Point Thoroughbreds will join us. Again, they were part of the proceedings last night at the Unbridled Affair event at the Holiday Inn, but we'll have Tom in talking about some of their action, West Point Thoroughbreds. Gary Contessa will join us as well, New York fixture on the training scene. And right after the break, we'll be joined by Brian Bouyer, the Director of Communications, National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame. Thought it was a good spot right here, pretty much the beginning of the meet, to bring Brian in and talk a little bit about the events coming up right across the street at the Hall of Fame. They have a lot of things coming up during the season and beyond. We'll talk about that in just a couple of minutes. Stay tuned. We'll be back. More Racing Across America right after this.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes.
You know, and make better decisions, better choices, to know how to connect the dots. In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool, but not the only tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. These too are important tools, and you'll find them all right here at Capital OTB. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
The backstretch workers are the heart and soul of what we do.
They're the backbone of the industry.
People on the racetrack are very giving people.
It's a very oppressive community of people helping one another. We see it all the time.
Any help we need it. It's right there in their hands.
It makes so much easier in the family to have somebody like Nathan to help them.
Look Looking for a fantastic meal? Stop by Malcolm's, a unique farm-to-table restaurant experience. Located at 617 Union Street in Schenectady, Malcolm's offers locally grown fresh foods, mouth-watering flavors, an enhanced drink menu, and terrific service. Malcolm's is a sure bet during Saratoga season. Make your reservation today.
Welcome back to Racing Across America, Friday morning, live from the Saratoga backstretch. And as I said before the break, I thought it was a great time to talk a little National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame and the events they have coming up during the meet and beyond. And who better to do that with than Brian Bouyer, the Director of Communications across the street at the museum. Brian, good morning.
Thanks, Seth. How you doing?
Very good. And you and I talked before we went on the air, and things are busy at the museum.
It's our time. It's 6 weeks of Christmas time for us, and you know, we're open all year and we're busy all year, but you know, this time of year is our special moment. So
I always tell people, if you're coming up, come up a little bit early. If you've never stopped at the museum, it is literally across the street, across Union Avenue, if you're not familiar. And it's worth, if you're a racing fan, getting over there and making a visit. What are the hours during the season?
We're 9 to 5 every day, so 9 to 5, Monday through Sunday, every day. Come on in. Yeah.
Let's talk some of the events and whatnot coming up. First, I have to ask trivia, because our friend Teresa Gennaro, she was sitting in yesterday, and she and Susie and Barbara Livingston won last year, I guess in a playoff with the Mike Kane entry that had won the year before. So it's a ding-dong competition. Still room for trivia players?
Yeah, absolutely. Trivia tonight, 6:30, 8:30. Come on in, bring your team. We've got food and beverages, and just a fun evening. And yeah, they got a little rivalry going the last couple of years. Teresa and Barbara and Susie Rasher and her team, and Mike Kane and Jim Mealy and Al Carter, the museum historian. They've been duking it out the last couple of years, but a lot of room for anybody who wants to come in. And we had a few other teams last year, and you know, we hope to get 10, 12 teams in here tonight. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's tonight. So swing by and make your visit for trivia night over at the museum. I wanted to, before we talk some of the things coming up, I wanted to go back because I was at the press conference for this. The end of last year or early this year, and it turned out to be just a home run, the Foal Patrol.
Yeah, it's amazing. We launched the Foal Patrol right before Christmas last year, right around December 19th, and it's 8 cameras that follow 8 different mares throughout their pregnancy and foaling process. And we had 5 farms in Kentucky, 2 here in New York, and 1 in Florida. And by the end of June, we'd already had over 1 million views on it. So we were, we thought it would be popular, but it really surpassed our expectations, and we're bringing it back in the fall for year 2. It's been tremendous.
Yeah, it's as I say, when the press release or the press gathering happened. It seemed like it was something that would be a great idea, but yet it's one of those you have no idea how it'll really work out, and it played out very nicely. And I think it'll be fun now for folks who were following along to now progress throughout the career as well.
Yeah, and absolutely. We're going to have different mares for the second season, but you're still going to be able to keep up with the first season's ones. I mean, some of them were homebreds that they're going to raise and race, hopefully. Others are going to go off to the sales, just depending on what the farm and their business is. But it's been a great thing, and a lot of education. People are asking questions and learning all about. It's something you don't see. You can come to the track and watch the horses, but this is really a aspect of the sport that most people don't get to see.
Yeah, it was a great idea, and it turned out to be, as I say, a home run. Let's also talk about coming up in a couple of weeks. I think this is going to be a home run too. The Women in Racing Symposium, and I mean, you have a blockbuster lineup as well. Folks are certainly familiar with Gabby Gaudet, but Julie Crone will be there. Janet Elliott, Blythe Miller, Linda Rice, Charlotte Weber, and emceed by Chelsea Canny.
Yeah, this is next year we're going to be launching a Women in Racing exhibit. So we kind of thought this would be a nice precursor. Bring in some really successful women that have A lot of them have broken barriers and had great success in the sport. And along with the symposium, we thought it'd be a great time to interview them all, get their stories on tape and everything. But our 2 Hall of Fame women are coming in, Janet Elliott and Julie Crone. They're going to be tremendous to have there. And we've got different aspects. You got questions for a trainer, you can ask Linda Rice. You got the steeplechase questions, Blythe Miller, Rode Lonesome Glory and everything. And great industry professionals, Stella Thayer, the president of Tampa Bay Downs and a breeder, and Charlotte Weber, who Live Oak's celebrating 50 years of success this year. So it's going to be a great panel. That's Sunday morning the 19th. 10 a.m. and it's free to come on in. There's no charge. We just want to open it up and give people the opportunity to hear the panel. And Charlesie's terrific, so she'll run a great event.
Yeah, we will remind people as we get closer to that. But again, that's one that certainly people want to jump on board for, particularly women or young women who are thinking about a racing career potentially. Fun event that certainly folks will want to take advantage of. The Tom Durkin Tours. I mean, if you're going to get a tour, why not get it from Durkin?
Yeah, exactly. This is our 3rd year with Tom, and he needed something to do in retirement. So we said, you know what, Tom, come on in. We'll have you as a tour guide. What do you say? And he's like, I love it. So they're very popular. A lot, you want to make your reservations in advance because there is a limited number of people you can get on the tour. But he's been terrific, and the museum is great on its own. But when you have an epic storyteller like Tom Durkin coming in to tell you about these paintings and the artwork and the different stories that he has in the Hall of Fame with the different horses and jockeys and trainers, it's such a unique perspective to hear the stories from him.
And I'll go back and tip my cap to you guys for putting together a nice program back at the end of May, because I stopped over Tom Durkin talking about his memorable Belmont Stakes calls, and our friend Jeff Carl was the MC there. And I'm always amazed because the folks in this area are so plugged into racing. It was pretty much a full house on May 31st, and Tom just let loose with a lot of great stories about the Belmont.
It was so much fun, and we wonder, when you do an event that's not right in Saratoga season, what kind of crowd are you going to get? And but it was a week before the Belmont, the 150th running of the Belmont. And we thought, what better guy to have in to tell stories than a guy who called for a quarter of the century, and he told a lot of fun stories. And I thought one of the funniest ones was about his near misses with the Triple Crown. He goes, and then the year I leave, Larry Colmus comes in right out of the blue and gets to call a Triple Crown winner. So Tom packed the house, and he's been such a great ambassador, not only for the sport but for the museum. He's done a lot of great stuff for us.
Yeah, and again, there are nice events going on at the museum all year long, and that was one of them. And as I say, it was a lot of fun. And so keep your ear to the ground during the rest of the year also. Let's talk a little bit about some of the other things coming up. You and I were talking before we went on the air. Right behind us, if people are familiar, there is a private training facility that's been there for years. Its own training track, its own barns back there. I said to Brian years ago, I interviewed Bill Mott, he was stable back there. Now Kieran is back there. The Green Tree Stables, you'll do a couple of tours back there. And I said, I want to get on that.
Yeah, people drive by that area all the time, right past Clare Court on the backstretch area. It's owned by Godolphin now, but for a number of years that was the summer residence for Green Tree Stable, Jock Whitney, Joan Payson Whitney, and they've had such a legacy here. And it's a facility that is private. It's not a lot of access to get in, but the nice people at Godolphin are going to give us access for 2 tours, one on Saturday the 18th, Alabama Day, and one for the following Tuesday. So you can pick all the information on that on our website, but we're really looking forward to getting over there. I mean, I know probably 95% of people, if not higher, have never been back there, so it's a unique opportunity.
Yeah, as I said, I want to stop by because, again, if you drive down and just look over, you'll get an idea of what a special place it is, and it has its own training track, and it'd be worth stopping by and getting a tour there. Another interesting event coming up for photographers, professional and amateur. You have a juried photography exhibit coming up, and folks can enter their photos and see if they can get in and be part of the exhibit across the street at the National Museum of Racing. That'd be nice. Put on the old resume.
Yeah, we're taking submissions right now, and it's open to everybody. I mean, amateurs, professionals. So if Barb Livingston and Skip Dixie want to be a part of it, that's great. But we're getting submissions from children in Colorado already. So so submissions are able to come in right now, and this will be something that we're going to launch in 2019. But yeah, if and it can be anything. If it's a great paddock photo, or just a great photo of a horse on a farm, or a jockey, whimsical. There's no real restrictions on it. We just want to get a nice cross section and showcase photography at the museum.
And photography these days is so important. Everybody's taking pictures in one form or another with the digital cameras. You can walk around and just shoot as many as you like, and certainly Saratoga is so photogenic. A lot of people out here in the mornings and the afternoons taking all kinds of pictures. I went to the website, the National Museum of Racing website yesterday, and pulled up the entry form to that, and folks have until October 15th to submit photos. And then how's the actual jury process work after that?
Well, we've got a couple museum staff members. We've got some professional photographers, and they'll make the selections based on that. So it'll be a collaborative process to determine how the exhibit's going to play out. Very good. And again, folks can go to the National Museum of Racing website to learn more about that. I also wanted to touch on, we'll touch on in a second, the Hall of Fame induction, which is coming up obviously early in August. But before we touch on that, just want to mention Media Roll of Honor, the Joe Hirsch Media Roll of Honor, because this year our very own Mike Veach was entered appropriately, but it was Mike Veach, Jack Whitaker, and Barney Nagler, and a nice class of additions to the Joe Hirsch Media Roll of Honor. Yeah, Michael has been such an influence in local media. He finally just retired from the Saratogian at the end of last year, but he's working on, I think, 3 different books right now. One of them I'm doing with him. We're doing next year is the 150th running of the Travers, so we're doing a retrospective book together. But I worked with Michael at the Saratogian and was fortunate to work with him. And anytime I have a historical question, there's 2 guys I go to. It's Michael Veach and Al Carter.
Yeah.
And those guys have been great. And Michael covered the sport for more than 40 years for the paper, and one of those journalists who wasn't afraid to ask those questions that needed to be asked about the industry, a real watchdog. So we're gonna have a little reception for him at the museum on August 15th, him and his family and everything. Yeah. So yeah, he's a great addition. Nice guy too. Yeah, terrific. Really one of the nicest guys up in the press box. And then of course Jack Whitaker as a kid, I remember legend. Him. Yeah, I remember him legend. Hosting those broadcasts that we all watched, and Barney Nagler as well. Yeah, terrific group. Yep. Yeah, so I wanted to acknowledge them, but. Again, the actual Hall of Fame ceremony comes up on August 3rd, 10:30 a.m., open to the public. This year, Kenny Rice will be the MC, and Heavenly Prize is the entrant, but there are also a number of entrants from the historical committee and whatnot. Yeah, we have a total of 15 going in this year. It's a really large class. Heavenly Prize was the lone contemporary one that got in, but the racehorse Preakness, the namesake of the second Triple Crown race, is getting in, who was a huge hero in the 1870s. So it shows how vast our sport is, that we're still, analyzing the history from back in the days. A trainer named William Lakeland from that era, who won over 110 stakes races, which was pretty remarkable considering, the numbers that were running back then. And then 12 Pillars of the Turf. I mean, this is exciting for me. I mean, we've had this category now for only 5 years, and we caught up a little bit this year with a little bit of an expanded election. So we've got 3 generations of the Whitney family being inducted, William Collins Whitney, Harry Payne Whitney, and C.V. Whitney, but a lot of other legends too. I mean, John Morrissey. Penny Chenery. Yeah, Penny Chenery, John Morrissey, who founded Saratoga here, August Belmont I, Arthur Hancock Sr., and probably our centerpiece of the show, Cot Campbell's going to be in this year. So really excited about a guy who's meant so much to racing and really established the partnership concept that is so popular today. And you and I were talking beforehand, so we'll tease a little bit. Folks show up at the ceremony. There will be a museum-related announcement coming up as well. Yeah, if you're at the Hall of Fame ceremony, and if you can't make it there, you can watch it online. It's streamed right on our website, racingmuseum.org. But we're going to make a major announcement about the future of the museum, and we're taking our Hall of Fame to the next level, and it's going to be something you're going to want to be there for. This is something that's really going to revolutionize the experience at the museum. So big announcement coming on Hall of Fame Day, and we're excited to share it with everybody. And it's already a lot of fun. Right across the street, again, highly recommend you stop by during the meet and visit the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame. If you haven't been, get over there, because you come a little early. Get your museum experience, and then come on over here for the races. But if you've already been, make another visit as well, because again, they're rotating exhibits throughout the year as well. Yeah, we've got an exhibit right now celebrating the 150th anniversary of the Belmont Stakes. So nice. we took a lot of artwork out of our collection of a lot of it hadn't been shown in a number of years. Portraits and stuff from the Belmont collection. of all the winners. So that's in our Von Stadi gallery right now, and that's something new. We've got for the full patrol, you're able to do that right in the museum and access it, and a lot of fun stuff going on. We got events throughout the month of August. Just check our calendar on the website.
Should mention also the interactive horse ride.
Yeah, if they won't let you on a horse here at Saratoga, which is probably a good idea for most of us, we have a horse race simulator that you can come in and try, and you can do it at a couple different levels. You can do it at a beginner, or you can take yourself through a 1.25 mile race at Saratoga, or a lot of the other tracks. You can ride in England, you can ride in Kentucky, so it's a lot of fun, and definitely one of the big hits at the museum.
And it's funny, I've had a number of people who have tried it and said, man, that's a lot harder than I thought.
Your legs are burning afterwards if you're not used to it, absolutely.
Before we let you go, Brian, I always like to let you tout the book. You said you're working on a new one. We're looking forward to that, but want to go back because I checked and the Amazon's still available. You did a great book on John Morrissey, Bare Knuckles and Saratoga Racing, the remarkable life of John Morrissey. And again, talk a little bit about it, and as I say, still available. And I'm certain still available in town as well.
Yeah, it's you can find it anywhere throughout Saratoga Springs or online at Barnes & Noble, Amazon, and the places. But he was just such a fun character, and I'd written about him a number of times, and I decided, this was a guy who needed his own biography, who deserved his own biography, and he's such an important part of Saratoga's legacy. And the stakes race was yesterday, and it's great to see him honored into the Hall of Fame this year, where he deserves. But John Morrissey, kind of a hero of mine. Great story.
Yeah, nice job with the book as well. And again, folks can pick that up around town online. Highly recommended. Brian, as always, appreciate the visit. Again, tonight trivia. What time if folks want to?
6:30 at the museum. You can register right there. Just come right on in and bring your team. You got to have at least 2 people to do it on the team, but come on in. You get some good beverages, some food, and we'll have a lot of fun playing trivia.
Sounds good. All right, Brian. Again, appreciate the visit and good luck throughout the season and beyond.
Thanks, Seth.
Brian Bouyer from the National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame. And again, you can visit their website anytime to get updated on events and programs. We'll take a break. When we come back, Gary Contessa is in the house. We'll talk a little New York racing with Gary right after this. Stay tuned.
For 4 generations, Bruce Cerrone and his family have continued the 96-year tradition of delighting their local following and faithful summer crowd with the finest authentic Italian recipes. Classic Italian dishes made with the freshest ingredients and served in a home-like setting where everyone is welcome. Some things have changed in the last 96 years, but not Pinnell's commitment to the finest in Italian cuisine. Pinnell's Italian Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, just minutes from the track.
Sign up today for Capital OTB's handicapping series and plan your trip to Las Vegas.
Visit Rivers Casino and Resort, the Capital Region's only destination for live table game action and the hottest new slots paying out millions. And they're off. Horse betting is now at Rivers Casino and Resort with Capital off-track betting terminals and live tellers located just off the gaming floor at Van Slyck's. Get in on all the action at Rivers Casino and Resort.
Funding your Capital OTB bet account is as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. Easy Money. Clearly the fastest and easiest method of depositing funds into your account. Make deposits or withdrawals in just minutes. 2. Green Dot Money Pack. Gives you instant access to your funds. Green Dot Money Packs are available at thousands of retailers nationwide. And 3. MasterCard Visa. Simply click on the link from the funding page, enter your account information, and fund your account. CapitalOTBBet.com. Log on today.
Welcome back to the Racing Across America here on this Friday morning, live again from the Saratoga backstretch, as promised before the break, joined now by New York fixture, Gary Contessa. Gary, good morning.
Good morning.
Happy to have you on board, talk a little New York racing and what's upcoming and whatnot. First, you and I were talking before we went on. I saw you in the paddock before the feature yesterday. You had a couple of horses in, and as you said when you sat down this morning, it's just kind of if we talk about it a little bit, it allows people just there's one way to win. There's many ways to lose. You had a horse have a little incident in the paddock yesterday, but this morning is fine.
Luckily, we had a lot of grass in the paddock, but there are so many ways to lose a race. Just it's incredible. I could probably write a book about all the different ways I've lost races over the last 35 years. But this horse has always been a little bit of a difficult A-type personality. He's had his moments in the paddock. We schooled him every day since they opened the paddock, knowing that we were going to be running him on yesterday. And we get the saddle on him, he's walking, and for no apparent reason, he just goes straight up and over backwards and hit his head. Now, since horses can't talk to us, we can't make a judgment and say, oh, just let him run, he didn't hurt himself. He can't tell us that. So we have to always err on the side of caution, and it was an immediate scratch in my book. State vet came over and she agreed with me.
Yeah, the horse was kind of walking around in the paddock waiting for the other horses to leave before we went back to the barn. It looked fine then, and you say this morning fine as well.
Yeah, and but again, they can't talk to
you. Yeah, you better safety for the safety of the bettors and whatnot, and the safety of the horse.
We'll see him 2 weeks from now, and hopefully he won't do it again.
Yeah, and again, so everything turns out well there. We've had you on before, and I'm sure we covered this, but for folks who maybe weren't tuned in, talk a little bit about how you got into the game.
Well, I left high school, and I was always into horses. My whole life I was into horses, but I was around standardbreds, and because I could ride my bicycle from my high school over to Roosevelt Raceway. Grew up around those guys, but the allure of thoroughbreds always kind of caught my desires, let's say. And when I left high school, I just knocked on doors and I found Dave Sazer, and I went to work for Dave Sazer at Aqueduct and worked my way through the ranks. I was making $52 a week as a hot walker, working 7 days a week. You gotta love this business to make $52 a week, but that's what I wanted to do. And I had a goal. My goal was to be a trainer, and luckily there was really very few roadblocks in that way, but I dedicated most of my life to this game.
And obviously, again, as I say, a New York fixture. Everybody who watches this program, I'm sure, is familiar with your name. Talk a little bit about, it's different here than Belmont, here than Aqueduct, but talk a little bit about the life of a trainer up here at Saratoga. When's the day start? When's the day end?
The day starts, my alarm goes off every morning at 4:11. That's what I have.
4:11. How'd you pick 11?
Who knows? But it works. And now it's like I have to get up at 4:11. But my alarm clock goes off at 4:11. I'm in the barn about 4:45, where we do a visual inspection of all the horses, and we get all the reports on who didn't eat, who might be sick, who coughed last night, who did this, and then we start training at 5:30. Training ends at about 10:30, and then we have that hour and a half to 2 hours to inspect the horses, do therapy, get all the work done, and then we start the races. And then in Saratoga, unlike any other track, all the owners come here. The owners come here, the fans come here, everybody loves this place. So when we're done with the racing day, like today, the last race runs at 6:30, I have owners said, okay, we'll meet at Ciro's at 6:45. It's like, then the evening starts, and you gotta sit with the owners, you gotta go to dinner. Every night we have something planned. So we get home, my wife and I get home 10:30 at night, and we sleep. I get to sleep 5 or 6 hours and start it all over again. Saratoga is amazing, but we're prepared for it. But by Labor Day, I need a vacation.
Yeah, well, we're in the same boat over here on this side of the game as well. You talked about coming in early in the morning, getting reports on the horses. You have a lot of horses, and so it takes a lot of people to be involved. Some of your staff is here with you this morning. Talk a little bit about the staff and how they play a role.
Well, your assistant trainers play a big role. John Diaz, my assistant here, plays a big role. He's like my police officer and my psychiatrist all at the same time. I have an assistant trainer at Belmont. I have another assistant trainer here. I have a full-time physical therapist that works for me. So all of these people gel to get the job done. I mean, we're constantly, it's 8 or 10 different sets of eyes to make sure that we get everything right, because all it takes is to miss one little thing, and you could end that horse's career or end the rest of his year. So assistant trainers are a huge part of this business, and I count on them, and I speak to them a lot. We speak 5, 6, 7, 8 times a day, and sometimes I'm just as aggravated as heck by an assistant trainer who's just giving me way too much bad news for one day, but I know it comes. bad news comes, and you just got to be prepared.
Yeah,
for it.
hopefully it just all evens out in the end. You mentioned, and I was online last night too in prep for the show. You have a fun little YouTube channel that I'll recommend to people because you've done a lot of what would I call background kind of information, the feed and how you might get into the game if you're interested in that. And if folks go to YouTube and type your name in, again, these videos will come up. But you talked a little bit earlier about, they can't talk to you, and so you kind of have to be able to read them a little bit. Fill us in as how you do that as a trainer. I'm assuming you mentioned before who doesn't eat, so I'm assuming you look in the feed tub. If they're not eating right, that can give you some information. How do you read the tea leaves?
That's the easy one. Hard one, the hard one are the little subtle hints that horses will send you just by the way they're standing, or you'll watch a horse every day train on the track. And today, no different than yesterday, but today he sweats profusely. He's trying to tell you something. Today he's galloping with his ears pinned. He always gallops with his ears up. He's trying to tell you something. Horses rely on us. It's like I'm a coach of a team that can't speak and can't communicate. So I have to take all those little subtle hints that they're giving me, and I have to use my veterinary team, my physical therapy team, and my assistants, and we have to really, really decipher what the horse is trying to tell us. It's not easy. And on my YouTube channel, I try and share that with the public. Yeah. This public, especially at Saratoga, has a thirst for knowledge about this game. They love it. So I have about 18 videos on YouTube that are about 45 minutes to an hour long, discussing all aspects of the game, and I get a lot of positive response from it.
Yeah, as I said, I would recommend people go to, if you want to know some of the nuts and bolts and background, it's fun to listen to. One of them talked about the feed, and you've mentioned that a couple of times this morning. I'm curious, does every horse get the same diet, or is it tailored to the horse? The
diet, the diet, the staple of the diet is the same for every horse, but some horses don't like that. You're gonna have to add sweet feed for this one, oats for this one. Then you have horses that have vitamin deficiencies. We take a lot of bloods. So our supplement program is individualized for every horse. We'll have a supplement. This horse needs a calcium supplement. This horse needs a B12. This horse needs a B complex. This horse needs iron and liver. We take bloods. Again, they can't tell us, so we have a supplement program that is second to none, and we supplement those horses to their needs.
Yeah, very good. All right, let's talk some horses, because I want to know if maybe we'll see one of these up here at Saratoga. Keep our eyes on. I want to go back, and we have a replay going back to July 15th. This is the Lynbrook Stakes down at Belmont. You were one of a couple, 3 first-time starters in here. The other horses have a little bit of experience, but I like this confident move. Putting in a maiden in a stakes race. Number 3, Maiden Beauty, gets it done in the first career start at 22-1. How's she doing? We're going to see her up at Saratoga.
Yeah, you are. You're going to see her here on the 24th. She's training here. She worked this morning on the training track. I put her in a stake race first time out because basically all these horses are on the same level. And her mind was better than most of my other 2-year-olds. This is the feeling. If you ever go into a kindergarten class, there's 2 or 3 kids that are intent on listening to the teacher, and the other 20 kids are throwing spitballs and looking out the window and everything. This is that one little girl that's looking at the teacher and taking it all in, and she's just a very intelligent filly. And I said, if ever I'm going to win with a first-time starter in a stake, this is the filly. And her works were good. Her times were good. She gave me every indication that she was worthy of being a stake horse, so I said, why not? And it turned out that it worked out very well. Made me look good.
Yeah, it certainly was a nice first-time effort and nice to pick up a little stakes win. So we will see her later in the meet.
On the 24th, yes.
All right, we'll look for her. And then I wanted to pull up one because I wanted to ask you a question about this horse. We're going to go back to July 12th down at Belmont. This is a maiden special for state breds going a mile. You're going to win here with number 5, Starlight Mission. She's a horse who had come into the race with 8 starts already, and had kind of been knocking on the door, 4 seconds and a third-place finish, but got it done here. Again, she's the number 5 horse, so it's career start number 9, and as a handicapper, these are the kind of horses where in the next race I'll say, you know what, it seems like the light bulb turned on. As a handicapper, am I on to something? Do some of these horses take 6 or 7 starts to kind of figure it out and have the light bulb turn on?
Sometimes the trainers screw this up. And I don't think I've done a great job training this lady, but what I was trying to do is trying to figure out what she was all about. So I sprinted her. She sprinted great at Saratoga last year. Then I stretched her out a little bit, and she gave me a little bit of a subpar effort. Then I put her on the grass, and she ran a dynamite grass race. So it was all a learning curve for me. And had I just run along on the dirt from the very beginning, we probably would have won a long time ago. But I was trying to figure out exactly what she is. Again, she couldn't tell me, always trained like a good horse. So I went short, long dirt, long turf. Then, when she ran so well on the turf, it took me 2 more turf starts to realize, well, maybe she's not quite so good on the turf. Then we go back to dirt. She's in tomorrow as a main track only. If the rain comes, she's in an open allowance race, she can be very tough. She really looks good in that race. And I do think the light has gone on. I think you're going to see a different horse. And if you really look hard at the PPs, Rosario really has made a difference on this filly. Her first 2 starts were stellar with Rosario, and then they reunited for the win. So Rosario has helped a lot.
That's interesting. So that's another thing that I look at as a handicapper, but that's something you believe in as a trainer as well.
Absolutely.
Some jocks fit some horses.
Absolutely. And I do believe that trainers do screw up horses' training programs sometimes. And I'm no different.
And again, I'll ask, though, maybe not in her case, but are there cases where it is 3 or 4 starts and they're just getting an education, then finally it's like, oh, okay, I've got to figure it out now?
Yeah, because you get horses that show you something in every start. Yeah. Short, long, turf, dirt. And you're like, man, what is it? What does she like the most? And finally it clicks. And I think with this filly, it finally clicked.
Do you see that in the morning, too, where it's like, oh, man, she works right in the morning, or he works right in the morning, in the afternoons. And so, again, it's a puzzle of, okay, the horse clearly has talent. I just got to figure out how to get it out in the afternoon.
Absolutely. And as long as they're training well and they're sound, it's going to come. You know, when you have that horse that's giving you all the signals, you just have to get it together on behalf of that horse, really.
And speaking of training, I've had a couple of trainers in already at this meet, and I've asked them, and I think I'll ask throughout the meet, because, again, I'm curious always the nuts and bolts, and that's the fun of coming up here to Saratoga, having folks like you sit in. I looked at the PPs, and I have them for 3 days now, so I don't remember which day, but one race you had a couple of horses in. One of them had worked on the main track in the turf, and then another one had worked across the street at the Oklahoma. Now, obviously, turf works, you have to be across the street. But how do you decide dirt works, whether you're going to be here at the main track or across the street at the Oklahoma?
Gary Contessa loves the Oklahoma track. But I believe that all horses, especially the babies, need at least 1 trip over the main track. They're going to have to run over it. I'd be very happy if they ran all the races on the Oklahoma track. I love that track. It's safe. It's the best track in the world. But they need to feel the footing on this side too. So you'll see generally with my horses 1, maybe 2 works on the main track, but not a lot. Most of my horses I want them to work on this.
Do you ever bring them out here, Claire Court?
Sure.
And what do you use that for?
I'll use Claire Court for a horse that's mentally not progressing the way I want her to progress, he or she. And this is a great opportunity to give a horse something different, that they're not going to that track where they're worried about breezing all the time, or the main track where it might be a little crowded. This gives them a little bit more privacy, a little bit more down experience, and it's better on their brain.
That's interesting, because clearly, and you understand why, horses are kind of creatures of habit, and in the afternoon they go in the paddock and they know, oh, they got the game face on. But that's the same in the morning too. So if they're at the Oklahoma or the main track, they kind of know, oh, I know my job. Whereas back here, it's a little more like, oh, it's not so much a day at the office, but I'm going to get my work in.
Right. It's not unlike a dog. If you take that dog in your car only to go to the veterinarian, that dog starts shaking every time it gets in your car. Same with horses. So instead of only going to the main or only going to the train track, Claire Court's a great alternative, and I use it quite often.
Yeah, nice. Gary, appreciate the visit. We certainly look forward to the remainder of the meet. I know you had a great winner down at Aqueduct. I was looking up the Equibase stats. You're sitting number 5 at the Aqueduct winner meet, and so
not too bad.
Yeah, we're looking.
I don't have the numbers that I've had at one time. You know, I had hundreds of horses at one time. I'm sitting at about 50 or 60, but we've been productive.
And you have 50 or 60. They're not all up here.
30 here. And the rest are on a van going back and forth.
Yeah, I was going to say, so that they rotate in and out. Yeah, very good. Again, appreciate the visit this morning. Wish you a lot of good luck going forward in the Saratoga meet, and we'll talk again.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Gary Contessa. All right, we'll take a break. He's in the house. Tom Bellhouse from West Point Thoroughbreds. We'll talk a little West Point right after this. Stay tuned.
Pick, bet, and cheer on live racing from Woodbine and Mohawk Park. Thoroughbred and harness action. The wagers are just the beginning. Watch award-winning broadcasts covering both breeds, incredible battles contested over the most unique grass course in North America. Experience the full fields with over 130 thoroughbred and 160 live harness days. Get access to free handicapping material and join the ranks of Woodbine and Mohawk Park players from all over the globe. For more information, visit woodbine.com.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
The backstretch workers are the heart and soul of what we do.
They're the backbone of the industry.
People on the racetrack are very giving people.
It's a very oppressive community of people helping one another. We see it all the time.
Any help we need it. It's right there in their hands.
It makes so much easier in the family to have somebody like Nathan to help them.
A day at the track isn't complete without a night at the Horseshoe. Great food, hot music, and cold drinks. So why go downtown when all the action's just across from the track? The Horseshoe Inn at the corner of Nelson and Gridley.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. As promised before the break, always happy to be joined by Tom Bellhouse from West Point Thoroughbreds. Tom, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. Great to be here.
Happy to have you on board. And I mentioned at the top of the show, I thank the folks at An Unbridled Affair, Captain Community Human Services. Nice event last night over at the Holiday Inn. I sat at the table with the MC, Steve Bick. Steve did a nice job, but you guys, West Point, were one of the honorees.
We were, and it was quite an honor. I mean, Steve has really become the voice of our industry. You know, I think I joked about when we accepted the award that he gets me through a lot of trips from Saratoga to Aqueduct in the winter, listening to him, and I really think his shows bring a lot to our industry, and to be honored last night, to have the group honored, it was a thrill, especially considering the people who are also honored. People who had donated 40 years of their time to build it up, as well as the Mind Your Biscuits crowd, you know, the true people's horse. Yeah. And it was great. And it made me think a lot about Twilight Eclipse, you know, a horse from humble beginnings that took you around the world.
And I said at the top of the show, the woman who got up and kind of gave her personal account of how Captain had helped her, the room became silent at that. And then to have her kind of give her story as a teenager and getting help from the organization and turning out to now be a head of human resources with the Boys and Girls Club and married and has her own child, it just told you all about the organization. So I was happy to be part of it and see them wind up with a nice, successful event.
And Gary Contessa, who was just here, Gary has been, you know, very prominent in that organization for the, you know, Karen, my wife, and I have attended functions for the captain for probably 5 years, and Gary has always spearheaded, always been the man, and the front man, so to speak, and him and his wife Jen do great work.
Yeah, so it was a nice event last night, certainly. Tom, I've had you on before. I asked Gary, and I said to Gary, I think we've had you on before and probably asked this. I'm not sure I've ever asked you, how'd you get into the horse racing game?
I grew up on Long Island, and I loved horses. I rode horses as a child. My next door neighbor loved harness racing, and when his wife didn't want to go, I'd tag along with him at age 12, 13, 14, going to Roosevelt and Yonkers. And my grandparents lived 2 miles from Belmont Racetrack, and my uncle took me one time, and really it was the time in the mid to late 70s that if you were introduced to horse racing during the Affirmed in Aladar, Ruffian, Spectacular Bid, Forgo, it would have been hard not to become a passionate fan. Steve Cawthon was a couple years older than me, and he was 16, and he was prominent. And as a kid who loved horses, it was just something, a passion, no matter what I've done, and I've done a lot of other things with my life, that passion never went away. And believe it or not, my paternal grandfather was actually a champion steeplechase jockey in the United States. You wouldn't know it looking at me, but him and my grandmother divorced, but it was something that, you know, as I got to know him a little bit and his love for the animals, I think it was something that was instilled in me. And even though my dad, when I was a kid, really wasn't into racing at all, my uncle, everybody has that uncle or that friend who took them to the track, and you know, Belmont Park was like my backyard.
That's funny. Gary, when I asked him, he said also Roosevelt Raceway. He started on the harness. I started across the street on the harness side. I always say that's a great way to get into the game because they're all a mile, and typically there's 8 horses. So you take a couple of pieces of the puzzle out as far as handicapping, and I think it's a lot of fun. You mentioned that time, exactly the time I kind of jumped into the game. Forgo was the horse that pulled me in. But I'll ask, you live down in New York. We were just in this area starting to get cable TV then. So WOR, you remember the old Saturday afternoon shows from Aqueduct and Belmont?
Not only do I remember them, I lived for them. You know, on Frank Wright, Charles C. Canny, and Dave Johnson. Yeah. And at night, Stan Bergstein and Spencer Ross on the harness side, and that was at 11:30 on a Saturday night. So I'll bore you with a quick story. I'm down in South Carolina. We had horses in Camden, South Carolina, and I got to have dinner with Charles C. Canny at the table. And you meet a lot of celebrities, you meet a lot of prominent, important people. I was as starstruck. I mean, as a kid growing up, Charles C. Canny and Frank Wright, I mean, they were the biggest stars. So fast forward about a month later, we're down at the Preakness, and I'm with a group of people, and Charles C. comes over and says, "Hi, Tommy," and my friends are like, "She knows your name." So, but huge fan of growing up. I mean, it was something that you couldn't wait for Friday. They would show you the feature race and then the 9th race as well, and you know, Newsday and Daily News trying to handicap the race without a form.
Yeah, no, I was right in exactly the same boat. And we talked to Brian Bouyer from the museum a little earlier. Charles is going to MC that Women in Racing Symposium, so that'll be fun for people as well. Yeah, but those Saturday shows, I tell people that you know, weren't around then. You missed it because, as you say, it was, you know, you weren't exposed that much. The technology was not the same. So that those 2 races on Saturday was kind of, you were waiting for those, as you say, and they did a great job. WOR with those Saturday, and then I'll toss in a story. The Stan Bergstein, the nighttime show. Back in those days, you could drink at 18, and so I was probably about 18 or 19, and the local bar where we all hung out, it was kind of a family place. Husband and wife, older couple, ran the place, and Stan the owner would, when the nighttime show came on, he'd bring out a stack of cards and count out 8 cards, and he'd have everybody pull a card and all throw $1 into the pool, and you would root for your harness horse to go around the track with the card. And
I couldn't wait for him to say, "Good night, all." That was his tagline at the end of the night.
How did you get into being involved with West Point?
I was working for a division of Chrysler out of New York. I was the sales director for their extended contract division, and I've been in contact. When the internet came about, you know, I've always been fascinated. I was living up in Oswego, New York originally. I owned a bar restaurant up there before I went to work for Chrysler, and I always came to Saratoga every summer. Always had the passion. And when I moved downstate, I left the big fish in small pond, small town living, and came back to my roots. And I didn't really love it right away. I was traveling all week for work, and then coming home and living in a 1-bedroom apartment that cost twice as much as my house in Oswego. And I'd been following West Point. I found it on the internet. Had met Terry over the years and Rich Cristiano at the time, and just one day, you know, Terry called me. It was a good day. I had a good day at work, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. And I think that was 2003, 2004. And was a partner with West Point, owning probably 4 or 5 horses over the years. And then in 2008, he asked me, "What's the least amount of money you could live off of?" and offered me a job. And I didn't do the math right, but it's all worked out well. 11 years later, we've had a great run, and I couldn't see myself doing anything else. I just love every day, and I love meeting new people, and and sharing our game with them.
Yeah, no, you know, I've known you and Terry for a long time, and it's fun to, you know, we do the handicapping show. It's always fun to point out the West Point horses and root for you guys, and it's got to be fun for you up here at Saratoga. I have been in the clubhouse when the West Point group has been watching the big TV and rooting and going crazy, and I'm sure partnerships, Saratoga just plays into it because people want to come up here. If they can get in the winner's circle, that's great, but they love to be in the paddock and get the mornings on the backstretch, so it has to be great for the partners this time of year.
Well, today's a perfect example. I mean, we've had a little challenge with the weather in the mornings, but today we had a sunny day. We had just a bunch of partners from all over the country that are in town. We don't actually even have any runners this weekend, which is unusual. We got 2 in on Monday, but just to have people in and soaking it up and watching the workouts and just, you know, I was talking to Mick, the producer, earlier, and it's the one sport where you can meet the stars and they're approachable and they're wonderful, and it's just great morning to be out here. And anybody who isn't coming up in the mornings, you definitely should make a trip and make a point of it, because to me it's my favorite part of the day. Even though I love the races and I watch them on the network, four screens going, and but there's nothing like the mornings.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, obviously, if you're a member of a partnership, that's great, and that's a bonus. But even if you aren't, come up here and enjoy that. I said that to somebody the guy who cut my hair yesterday. He said, you know, I live in town. I've been to the track maybe once. I said, no. You don't have to be plugged in and be a big better. Come over, enjoy the afternoon people watch. Come in the morning and enjoy that and take the tour. Take the tram to the backstretch. That's a lot of fun, too. All right, you alluded to it, so let's jump onto it, because you do have a horse coming up on Monday in the Coronation Cup, and we're going to pull up Originator's last race. This was up at Woodbine. This was the Alley Wow. Originator is going to run nice second in this race behind the Cassie runner. Road to Victory, the number 1, will be the winner, but you have number 2, Originator. And again, pretty good second place finish. Sets this one up for the nice Coronation Cup coming up on Monday.
You know, this is a filly that Terry was actually at Gulfstream at the last race of the day when she broke her maiden, and he was so impressed on her. He went down and talked to Ian Wilkes that day, right at the winner's circle, and said we'd be interested in getting involved with. You know, Ian's done a phenomenal job with this filly. We tried stretching her; she got a little rank, and I think that it really she's found a home turf sprinting. Now, this filly that beat her, if I'm not mistaken, is the only horse to beat Monomai Girl.
Oh, you might be right.
So, I mean, she definitely is a serious horse, and you know, Ian worked her the other day, a nice easy 51. He gave the kid strict instructions. If you break 50, don't come back. She had gone 47 the week before. He felt she was plenty tight. He's just trying to keep her happy, and luckily he got her out in the morning before the rain happened that day. So I think we're sitting on a big effort. I believe Jose Ortiz is riding us, and you know, she's a really nice filly. She's bumped heads with some good ones down in Gulfstream, and that race up at Woodbine really just affirmed that, you know, I think we're sitting on a big effort.
Yeah, she's clearly talented, and I think the Cassie horse, not only having talent herself, but maybe got the jump on yours a little bit, and so that was the one where the momentum just favored her a little bit in that race, but that was a nice second the other day up at Woodbine. Also, just wanted to get a little update. We'll go back to the Dwyer just a few weeks ago down at Belmont. I thought this was a pretty nice second, too. Frenzy Fire just kind of freaked. Frenzy Fire is going to be the number 7.
Did you see that coming?
Yeah, no, not that performance, certainly. But you got up and got second over Mendelssohn, a horse a lot of people have been high on all year long.
You know, Robbie Alvarado got off the horse. I was there that day. Robbie Alvarado got off the horse and was almost borderline emotional that this horse just fought all the way down the stretch, and he just wasn't going to let Mendelssohn beat him. I mean, Mendelssohn's a supremely talented horse. I mean, a little quirky for sure, but supremely talented. And the two of them dug in. If you've been watching the replay, they were head and head all the way down the lane, and he was not going to be denied. And I tell you what, this is the kind of horse, not just from a partnership, this is the kind of horse you want to own.
Yeah.
He just is honest. You know, we've other than his maiden race at Ellis, which was kind of a mystery to everybody, he hasn't run a bad race. And even the races that he went 2 turns, which are probably farther than he wants to go, he was right there until the top of the stretch. And he's just honest, and he's a fun partnership horse. It's a great partnership that owns him. They travel. They're all coming for Travers Day, for the the Allen Jerkins used to be the King's.
So that's the next.
That's the spot.
Okay.
That's the spot, and he's just. He's not the biggest horse. He's not the flashiest horse, but we've had good luck. We bought 2 morning lines last year. One is Empire Line, who's on the shelf right now for George Weaver. That was a really nice New York bred. Yeah. And this one, 7 Trumpets. If you remember, he lost by, I believe it was a nose to Friends and Fire in
earlier
Jerome.
This year, yeah.
So he kind of has our number a little bit, but that being said, I don't expect them to beat us by 10 lengths. That performance in the Dwyer was one of the top performances of the year.
Yeah, like I say, he just freaked, obviously, but it was
the money. The money showed, though.
Yeah. Somebody knew. They always know. I want to toss out a few other names maybe to watch for. Karat was a nice maiden winner up at Woodbine on June 16th, and just reading the website, it's likely this horse will look for an NX1 or N1X.
Yeah, this horse was bought by our partner, Rob Masiello. And
we had him on the other morning.
Yeah, Rob.
He had a funny story. He called Terry, said, "Yeah, I'm in college. I don't have any money, but in a couple of years, get in."
Yeah, he's done okay, right? But Karat, he bought at the sale, and Terry was there, and so we took a piece of his action on that. And Rob's thinking on that horse, I thought was really solid. He's a half brother to, I believe it's Midnight Storm.
Yeah.
A horse that his pattern was almost identical to Karat's at the same time of their career. So this is an exciting horse. Tom Morley has him, and like you said, we'll hopefully get an allowance race up here.
And let's hit on a couple others. When you sat down, you mentioned Pier 40, one to watch.
Pier 40, a fun New York bred, and to use the quote, not your father's New York bred. This horse was I believe $300,000 2-year-old purchase from Ocala Stud down in OBS March. When he was in the stall at OBS, he looked almost identical to one of our other city zips named Gotham Storm. And then when they pulled him out, he was about 3 feet taller. And I just went, I hadn't seen a city zip with that much leg and that and he has just really been impressive. He'll debut hopefully August 6th. He's not super fleet of foot out of the gate, but when you see him, he is a strapping horse. Probably going to want to go a route of ground, but we're going to get him started, and we'll start him against New York bred competition, but I wouldn't expect he'll be in New York breds long.
Pier 40, that one, Noble Spirit ran well?
George, we debuted Noble Spirit on opening Saturday. Ran phenomenal. Finished 3rd. Was a little bit intimidated on the backstretch when you watch the head-on. Manny Franco was on a horse in front of us that was kind of a little all over the place, and our guy didn't really know what to do with that. But Todd was on the lead. Johnny V kind of walked the dog, went 1:16 and 8, and then we knew we were in trouble there. And then Chad Brown's horse nipped us for second. But when you get beat by Johnny, and Johnny's horse was second-time starter, so George, I know George was on the network, and he said he thought Noble Spirit would be a horse to watch at the end of the meet. Hopefully we'll get him one more closing week.
From the experience.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But a really, really nice horse.
I want to toss out there also, earlier this year, of course, we were down in at Gulfstream for Florida Derby weekend, but saw Coach Rocks, which you guys had jumped into before the Gulfstream Oaks, and she's been a nice horse to partner with our local friend Roddy Valenti.
Well, Roddy and Coach Patino, I have a confession. I have like a man crush on Coach Rocks. She goes by every morning, and she's out of the Oxbow Awesome Again line, and I spoke with Dale the other day. We're sitting on the golf cart, and I just said, this filly strikes me as one that's going to be like Awesome Again, going to get better and better and bigger and strong. And she's gorgeous. She's just, if you pulled her out of the stall, she's just this big, beautiful horse. Now, the filly division right now is as tough as I've ever seen it with Monomoy and Jeff Bloom's filly, and then the filly who beat us
Red Ruby.
She beat us twice, and she's legit. She's coming for the Alabama, but she's training really well, Coach Rocks, and I'm excited. I think she's, whether or not it's in the Alabama, but I really think she has tremendous upside, and we've had a lot of luck over the years with Awesome Again, whether it be Awesome Gem or Awesome Vision and that line, and all of them got better with age. So that's what I'm hoping. This is really the first big Oxbow I've seen, highly successful Oxbow, and Dale bought her a year ago as a 2-year-old. So
Again, we had Rob Masiello on the other day, and he's been a partner in some of the West Point horses, so we talked a little bit about this already, but retired one of your bigger horses over the past couple of years, Ring Weekend, won the Kilroe out in California, Grade 1. And I said to Rob, you know what, when I knew I was going to talk about this, I wanted to pull up a replay, and I thought, should I pull up the Kilroe? It's a nice Grade 1. Or should I pull up the win in the Saratoga race? I went for the Saratoga race because,
good call.
Because those are, and maybe it wasn't Grade 1, but we got a win, nice stakes win at Saratoga.
You know, you look at a horse like Ring Weekend, and you talk about horses that take you on a journey. We partnered with Vinny Viola. Vinny was fairly new back into the game at the time, and he partnered with us, and really probably at the time, his partnership with us allowed us to go for a tap at that market. We probably weren't buying horses in that range at the time. And to have this horse win at Gulfstream, break his maiden at Gulfstream, win the Tampa Bay Derby, you know, be on the Derby Trail, run in the Preakness, and then come up here, run second to a little-known horse named Tourist in an overnight stake, and then we come back, we win the Saranac, we win the Hill Prince. He goes out and wins the Kilroe. Just the kind of horse that, you know, you take partners everywhere, and obviously unbelievably successful, but a fun horse and managed to perfection by Graham and his team. You know, we're going to miss him. I mean, we've gotten, I said to someone earlier, they said, oh, how's your meet going to be? I said, it was really nice for about 5-6 years, penciling Twilight Eclipse and Ring Weekend in for the 4-Star Dave and the Sword Dancer and the Bowling Green, and, you know, you get a little spoiled, but, you know, he's going to go on. Philip Dutton was one of the part owners of the horse, and for those who don't know, he is the champion Olympian equestrian, and he's going to do some work with Ring and see if he can develop into that type of prospect. But either way, he's going to have a great life, and it's well deserved. He's taken us on an amazing journey.
Yeah, he's been fun to watch, certainly, as again, some of your other horses as well. As I say, I've stood behind the West Point group looking at that big screen in the bottom floor of the clubhouse for some of those races, and it's a lot of fun watching the whole crew, as it must be fun to be participating as well. And for folks who do want to participate, obviously, you guys have a great website. I will tout that. The West Point Thoroughbreds, you know, type in Google West Point Thoroughbreds, it'll take you right to the website. But you click on that one, and it shows results, it shows upcoming races, and then you clearly have, you in conjunction with your trainers, looked at the condition book, and it really kind of looks out weeks ahead. Here's spots where we're kind of looking at. So it's a great way to follow and get more information on potentially becoming a partner. But I will note also, you know, you and Terry are walking around the track all throughout the meet, and I'm sure you would invite anybody to walk up who is interested in a partnership, even if it's not yours necessarily, because they're all different levels.
Absolutely.
But you'll pull people into the game regardless.
And I'm happy to talk about any partner. I mean, there are people I refer to, other partnerships that I think might be a better fit if they're looking to do something a little more regionally, or are very, you know, knowing they need to be near their horse. I think there's some people that might be a fit for them, and I always want to do that. And, you know, we need people, we need owners in our game. Obviously, I would love it with West Point, but even with other partnerships, there's some great partnerships out there with quality people that I have no problem referring people to. And it's funny, last Sunday, a partner said, well, I looked for you and I couldn't find you. And I went, man, I'm not hard to miss. I mean, I don't go far from the big screen, the post bar, and maybe the second floor clubhouse. So
yeah, the big screen, I see you there quite often. And again, if folks walk by you, they can come up and ask a little bit more about West Point. It's worth finding a little bit more about, or go to the website for more information as well. Because as I say, I guarantee, from what I've seen, all the West Point partners have a lot of fun up here at Saratoga.
It doesn't matter what kind of race, does it?
Yeah, it's a Saratoga win. Everybody's smiling. I remember a couple of years ago, Mike Kane and his buddies had partnered on a horse for Jim Bond. It was not the last day, second to last day, and I mean it was a low-level claim, but they were, and I was over the moon for them. They were in the winner's circle. They got a win, and it just if you win up here at Saratoga, it's all smiles, and you guys will have plenty of opportunities throughout the meet with some of the horses we've talked, and much more as well. Tom, appreciate the visit as always.
Thank you, my friend.
Tom Balehouse, West Point Thoroughbreds. Again, visit the website for more information. I'm going to wrap things up for Racing Across America for a Friday morning. Again, sunny here. We'll keep our fingers crossed that everything stays that way. We're on the turf as of this time, so should be a good afternoon here at the racetrack. Come on by, stop by one of the parlors if you don't have time and just want to swing in and make a couple of bets during the afternoon, or of course, bet on your computer or phone as well. I'm going to wrap it up for Racing Across America, but of course tomorrow morning the Handicappers Report kicks off at 9. Brian Etto will be in here at 10 a.m. with Saturdays at the Spa. So enjoy the racing this afternoon, cash a few tickets. See you back here tomorrow morning. Great, as always.
You've been watching Racing
Yeah,
Across America with Seth Merrow. Racing Across America has been brought to you by CapitalOTBBet.com, the premier online wagering site in New York State. CapitalOTBBet.com. Sign up today. Pinnell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga, just minutes from the track. Thoroughfan, giving the fan a voice. Find them at thoroughfan.com. Woodbine Racetrack. Pick, bet, and cheer on world-class horse racing north of the border. And the new Capital OTB mobile app. Wager anytime, anywhere. Download it free from the iTunes Store or Google Play.